While Eric Thomas operated the signal box at Yelverton station, guard Ken Gay was all set for the run to Princetown, a journey he took on numerous occasions.
The train to Lansing, train to Plymouth, and the Princetown train used to connect with up and down trains. Freight on a Monday, on a Wednesday and a Friday from Princetown to Orbridge. And then they would pick up coal and cattle food at Orbridge and take to Princetown, Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays. We would put coal off there. That was a fairly popular coal depot. We used to put coal off there every 3 days of the week, Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and pick up the opens that were empty on Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays for them to go to Orbridge to be taken back to Plymouth. But it was just fields and woods, nothing else. There were a few odd bungalows either side of the track, but no way a built-up area as it is now. And then you would go up through the woods and come out onto the open moor approaching Burrator.
Engine driver Bill Goff and fireman Cyril Stevens are featured in this archive footage. But another driver, Ron Sargent, worked on the lines for a few weeks and remembers it well.
Great Western had enough experience, and they'd sorted all these troubles out years ago as regards to slipping with engines. These 45s that went up a branch, the sand worked perfectly on them, didn't it? And as soon as the driver felt that the engine was going to slip, he just dropped a bit of sand, and that was it. The way the engine would go, it was no problem at all, was it? They never had the problems on branches. It was unheard of for anyone to stick through slipping, wasn't it? Unheard of.
Oh yes, I think that was about well, it was the most popular halt on the branch because of the view they got from the halt looking down onto the dam. Very popular. We stopped there every trip. You had to in case people wanted to get out or people would join, but in the winter it was very, very quiet. The farmhouse was near Ingrator, just off to the left of the moor, running towards Princetown, and that's where Joan French and her brothers used to live. She was a regular traveller. The farmhouse where she lived was quite a little way from the halt, but she would walk from the farmhouse to the track and walk a little way down the track to join the halt because that was the only way she could get there. They used to go to Princetown to do their shopping, and once a week they would go to Tavistock, usually on a Friday because that was market day. Two lamp standers at Ingrator, both oil-fed lanterns, which were brought down by the guard of the train as it got dark in the winter, or in the summer we didn't need them, and they would be taken out on the last trip and taken back to Princetown. It was just a thing that you always brought up to do, like, you know, open doors, shut doors, generally look after the passengers. The boys that used to come from, at that time, used to travel on the train. They were from Tavistock, the school, and they would come home on that, on the branch, the 10 to 5 train from Yelverton, and I have known them to get out at Ingrator Halt, and they would run across the moor, and by the time we got to Kingtor Halt, they would be waiting for the train. And that's quite some way across the moor. In the summer, yes, you'd be very popular for tourists. They used to go up and back just for the ride and perhaps get out at the halt and do a bit of filming and back on the train again and take a film of the train and these fanatics, you know. And then they would return to Plymouth and pick up the train back to wherever they were staying to.
I never liked working on the 45 class engine. The tanks always leaked for a start, and you could only stand up, and you used to stand up with your tummy up against the side, and you always finish up by being leaking wet. But it wasn't hard work, but it was interesting because you worked with men that were on the branch regular, like, you know, and they knew every trick of the trade. They knew it all, and you fitted in with them, like, you know. You learned with them. The engines were never cold, never. No matter how cold it was outside, it was always lovely and warm in the cab of a 45.
The wires on the telegraph post would be the size of your arm, because the fog that came down as well, it would freeze, and that was known as a Hamel frost. And the weight of the ice on the wires would pull the poles down. I've seen that happen. I've been up there every morning, went with the first train out of Princetown, and the coupling of the coach, or the engine then, has been just one solid block of ice. We had to break that up then with the coal pick off the engine to get him up onto the coach, to couple him up. I think the bus service went about once a day. Of course, once the roads were bad, the buses weren't entertained at all. So the railway was the only communication between the outside world, if you like. I think it'd be very popular now if it had remained open, because they could have run diesel units over there without any cost as regards staffing, and all they would have needed would have been a signalman at Yelverton to operate the points, Yelverton to Plymouth.
I think at that time they intended to close all branch lines come what may, and they've done it, haven't they? They've closed all branch lines. As many branch lines as they possibly can close, they closed. Immaterial whether they paid or no.
That's right, I agree. End of story.
Only a broken sign and 19th century boundary posts mark the sites of Princetown and Yelverton stations. On its very last day of working, in March 1956, Guard Ken Gay had a special train.
Well, it was a very sad day in one way, because we knew that we were all going to split up possibly and go our different ways, although we all had jobs. But I came down with the last train from Princetown, and as we came down we locked up the gates, and at the crossings they were locked and padlocked, chained. That was the end of the line.
Opening in 1880 to provide transport for the remote areas of Princetown, the Yelverton to Princetown branch of the Great Western Railway passed close to Burrator Reservoir, and living in Yew Farm just below the dam was Ethel Bowden, a young girl at the time of the First World War. She vividly remembers one particular train.
Yes, we were living in an isolated farmhouse during the end of the First World War, and there was a rumour that the war was over. I had my two brothers and my fiancé in the war, and of course we were very anxious about them. And we had no telephone or radio or anything like that. The only thing we had was a newspaper. And we arranged with the station master at Dowsland, who was a friend of ours, if it was true that the war was over, would he arrange with the engine driver on the Princetown Railway to blow a shrill blast just as the train was rounding the bend opposite our farmhouse. When the blast did go, there was great rejoicing at our farm. What could you do on an isolated farmhouse but jump in the air and clutch each other? Yes, it was a happy day.
But the line was not profitable and closed in March of 1956. A driver who spent much of his working life on that railway was Reg Ball.
When the railway was open first, there was Yelverton, Dowsland, Princetown. Eventually, smaller Alts was open, Burtor Alt, which was put up for the men who was building the extension of Burtor. Some came from around Arbridge, Yelverton, who came up by train, and others was from Princetown coming down. For the convenience of traffic going across, there was a temporary suspension bridge, similar to the one that they got at Bristol, the Clifton Suspension Bridge. You can still see where the foundations each side of the suspension bridge is still there now. Two concrete square places you see, one each side of, say, about 50 or 100 yards down from the main dam that is now. Eventually, they decided to close the Princetown branch. Visitors came there purposely for the view. It was about 50-50. See the view going up, and the other 50% was to see the prison when they got there. I was one of the drivers that used to go up to bring away the sleepers and rails as they was taking it up. I went up on the last train. I didn't drive the last train. I rode up and had a ride back as the last trip over. I got a ticket. Still got the old railway ticket that I had to go up. More people patronised it that day than it was ever known. When they knew a thing was closed and they wouldn't have it no more, they wanted it. When they had it, they didn't want it. It's like everything. If you haven't got anything, you want it.
Please visit our website for news about new productions that are on the way, and you can support my work on my Patreon page. Thank you.